there's a question coming. When there's a commercial and industrial labor dispute, who are they going to represent for? Are they going to represent the union members or to their boss? Anybody have an answer? One may say leader can fight for both employers and employees. It is ideal solutions, but it never be. You got to choose one. The union leader either have to abide by the mission of the political parties and employers, thus unable to represent the workers fairly. But no one voiced out so far. In reality, the dream share prosperity has been shattered. We labor for better high cost living in the first world countries. Yet, many earn wages in the third world as employees. I'd like to share with you in Bahasa Melayu. And pada suatu masa, pekerja-pekerja di Singapura cuma khas pagi makan pagi. Cik, betul tak, Cik? Sekarang makin lama makin susah. Sampai perasaannya mandi tak basah, makan tak kenyang. Betul tak? Tidur tak nyenyak. Yang itulah dia cakap 1,000 cukup. And someone recommended $1,000 for a cleaner auntie uncle. Hokkien lang siya beba ko besi lah. Just our union, can we still continue recommend and pursue them? My recommendations is no. The union must be a union of the people. Be independent. Play original functions to protect the interests of our Singapore brothers and sisters. Instead, placing the party members in the leadership of the union to set their policies. The government must separate these two functions. Instead, attempt to maintain harmony with the independent trade union leaders. This will ensure the interests of our employees are not to be compromised. The trade union leaders can fight to attain the first world salary to meet the cost of first world living standard. Am I right? As a Singaporean, we already moved to the first phase of the new world. We need a total balance of the approaches of work-balanced life, adequate incomes, and a good protections from the unions, and of course, happy family. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's give him a big round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen. He brought up something very important. Thank you, Mr. Ong. The workers, Singaporean especially, the true blue workers and their rights have to be looked into. That was his message to start off this evening. As the evening progresses, we'll be touching on this topic in more detail later on. I like the word that he used just now. He called all of us the brothers and sisters of Singapore, and I like it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all one big family. And in his message, he brought up the importance of the trade unions and how they must be separated from the ruling government. Otherwise, they cannot be an effective voice for the workers of Singapore. To continue the evening, our next speaker is also another candidate for this evening's rally and also this general election, representing PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC. He is none other than Mr. Sunny Wong, age 53. He has got multiple educational qualifications that you'll be impressed with. He started with diplomas in finance and accounting, moved on to do his bachelor's in business administration, and also ended off with a master's of science in quality management. He has more than 25 years of corporate working experience in the shipping logistics industry, as many other well-known listed companies and MNCs. Currently, he is the Quality Assurance Manager of an early young education center. And this man, I think, comes with a lot of experience where not only education, which affects every Singapore's child's life, but also in many different areas that he'll be touching into. Let's put our hands together, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome Mr. Sunny Wong Raven.
Thank you, Amita. Dear residents of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC, and friends and all other fellow Singaporeans, thank you for coming down tonight. Adding on to the introduction that you made earlier on to me, I just want to add on. Many friends have asked me, why do I choose to step on the side of the opposition? Stepping on the side of the opposition, you face a lot of obstacles. You face a lot of pressure. You probably also see many of the close friends will maybe keep a distance away from you. Well, my response to them was, it is okay. As long as I take this little step forward to speak up and stand up for our rights. And if I do not stand up myself, I cannot convince, I cannot even encourage many of the friends outside or around me to stand up and speak up for themselves. Let me ask, if you look around for the last few years, if the lifestyle actually improved, you know yourself for that. Now, I ask these questions. Being a first world countries, why are we so pathetic that we are seeing so many old Singaporeans having an age of 60 and above, and they're still struggling. And they're still struggling to work very hard as cleaners. It is not uncommon to see many old folks going around to collect newspapers, scraps, tins, and all that kind of stuff. Do you think they do this for exercise? Let me tell you, they are earning a living for it, and they're really struggling. I ask these questions. If our ruling parties are paying a very high salaries to our civil service servant, why can't we extend our helping hand to these old folks and make their life more bearable? I also believe that once a civil service has been paid too high, too generously high, it will hinder their appetite to take risks. It will limit their desire to speak up for us. Why? Because of the fear of making a mistake. Because of the fear of giving up what they have. I saw around many of my friends in my neighborhoods as we do my walk around. I saw many people are struggling every day, rushing to work and struggling to pay their bills, which is endless. And all these bills, if you name it, you know you are paying for your housing, how very high housing costs. You pay as much as 20, 25 kind of loans to service that loans. You are faced with high medical expenses and costs. And you have faced a lot of costs coming out from sending your child to a preschool and all the way to the higher educations. Now all this add up to your cost of living, and it's very high. Now in every part around us, every corner around us, everything, you can see the governments are laying their hand in everywhere of the business that you're doing, the land you own, the URA, coming from the HDB. Now these are all major land suppliers. And they're in a position to control the price. They're in a position to make life easier, less stressful for all of us. But I don't see this coming. Are we all subject to heavy taxing? Now, talking about CPF. Now, CPF was actually set up for the very fundamental reasons for your retirement. It's a false saving for your retirement. It is a good scheme, basically making everybody pay a certain percentage of their income back into the funds for your retirements. And it also promised that the CPF will return to us at the age of 55. That was the original promise. But then, this promise was broken somehow. What happened now? When you reach 55, if you have a sum that is below the minimum sum, you're okay. Anything that's above, you can actually withdraw. But let me ask you, not many people is able to achieve the minimum sum. And even so, the minimum sum is increasing quite frequently because they have to catch up with the pace of inflation. Now, can I ask, one of the reasons that are given to us was at the age of 55, why they do not allow us to withdraw our funds in full as promised by the intention of CPF that was set up. The reason given was because we do not know how to manage our funds at the age of 55. So at the age of 55, we all have become an idiot. Alright? Now we have been through all our educations at our time. And we have get involved with a lot of our insurance plan and policy like that. We have a lot of exposure. And then suddenly we do not know how to manage our money. You ask yourself this question, is it fair? There's some people, minority of them, who doesn't know how to manage. Because of those, we have been punished. The majority of us are punished for the small minority of them. And again, I ask, the small minority of them that do not know how to manage, was this really something? There's maybe some kind of problem with them. The real problem. Did we actually look into that? Rather than just say they do not know how to manage the fund. Now, something that is mirrored very closely with this this CPF, is the Housing Development Board HDB price. Now, when CPF was set up, it was meant for the retirement that I mentioned earlier. But along the time, it had actually open access for you to use the fund to buy your public housing. And what happened to that? When you have easily available credits available, everybody will understand the public housing the price will definitely increase. Well, you may be very happy about increasing price because it's a kind of an asset enhancement. But you have to realize one thing. Are you able to cash out? When you want to retire, you still need a roof over your head. And where do you go? You need to buy another house, or you need to rent another house. Where would your profit that you make end up with? It end up back into the market. Now worse is your children. Your children ends up paying high price, high HDB price. Can they come into this situation? Now, you have to think about these vicious cycles. Now, if you realize the CPF, the interest that I paid to you on your ordinary account is 2.5%, right? Now, our CPF fund has been used by the ruling party for investment, and the investment is reaping a much higher returns. But however, these returns are not be fairly cascaded down back to the stakeholders, which is us. We own the CPF funds. Is it fair? This is the question we need to ask. You may ask, well, you have higher interest on the special account, on your MediSave account, but can I ask you one thing? You end up paying for all those back into because the cost of living is high. Where it goes to? It goes back to your cost of living. It just flowed out. So I hope you can connect this relationship between this CPF and housing. Now, medical treatments. You know, medical treatments for chronic diseases or illness, it is very costly. Just to take one CT scanning or MRI scanning, these two treatments, it is actually beyond the reach of many people. And all those, even after subsidized, it will come to thousands of dollars without treatment. It is just only doing the scan. Now, do you know, when you have illness, chronic illness, and when you go and seek treatment, do you know that you cannot use fully of the money in your CPF MediSave? There's a cap that you can use. Anything above the cap, you pay from your pocket. Now I ask, the CPF MediSave is your money. Am I right? Now let me relate to you one story. It is actually, I've got this posting from a gentleman. It come out that I want to share with all of you, and his name is called Mr. Stephen Chu, and it's about his family experience that he had. Now, Mr. Stephen Chu, if you are hearing this speech is for you. Now I'm going to quote what he said. Let's talk about the real life issue other than your clean government that makes Singapore a peaceful, harmonious and stable country. My wife passed away 5 months ago. I don't know which is the date specific, but it was 5 months ago. Upon her death, there was a balance of more than 40K in her medical costs, 40K in her MediSave account. She has suffered from cancer for more than 2 years, and the medical costs shot the roof, even though she was a subsidized patient. We had to fork out tens of thousands of dollars when our government policy said there is a limit as to how much she could utilize from her MediSave account. Stephen Chu raised a question. Why do we need to set aside large sum of our money for our medical needs when we can't use them even from terminal illness? This is one scenario where we ask ourselves whether this ruling party is really taking care of us or themselves. That is his message. Now I pause for a while here. Now when the ruling parties set up any consideration of setting up any policy, they do give due consideration to certain circumstances. But however, for these particular circumstances, he was not given help. Now I want to ask one thing. You saw this statement, this slogan everywhere around the road from the ruling party. You see this statement. It is still with you, for Singapore. This case definitely I don't see it. Education. Now, our young children, from the time they reach 18 months onwards, they start to receive their education in their childcare or kindergarten. As they move along with age, they subject to very early screening. Now, this process of early screening is adding enormous stress on our children. Now, as you see, the early young, some of them are actually intelligent, but they are intelligent in their own ways. Not necessarily on the academic side, but maybe on music, on sports, or maybe on arts. So this subject of screening at the early age is in a way limiting the potential to develop them to the fullest. This is one aspect where I see that it is a form of discrimination. On the other aspect, when the child go to secondary schools, what happened here is that we heard from our minister saying that all schools are good. All schools are good schools. But we all know not every school has the same amount of resources and attention focused on the child. So some receive more attention, some schools give lesser attention. I don't think this is fair. As I mentioned earlier, there are some children are late developers as well. What about teachers? Now, the teachers are really heavily stressed out with a lot of they have a lot of administrative works. They have a lot of other duties. They give them very little time for engagement with the children. So we must also give due consideration to the teachers who is doing the best. Now, if you recall in your early years of education, there is always this statement who says that, this kind of value, the value statement in the schools, lifelong learning, respect, independence, freedom. If you can recall all those statements, right, in the schools. If that is the case, then we should not have discrimination. We should give them the fullest support to develop their potential to the fullest. Now, talking about the population, 6.9 million, I'm not going to go into the in-depth, my other colleague will cover, but I just want to say something here. The issue here is about addressing aging population, and the issue here is about addressing when the time comes, there are too many old people and there are not enough young people to look after the old. And as well, we need the working population to push up the economy. There's no argument on that. But is the solution of true foreign influx is the only solution to this problem? Earlier on, I touched on the other aspect of high cost of living that we all face with. Now, can I ask, if you have such a high cost of living around us, can a young married couples, after working so hard, getting tired, you think they go back home, they have all the worries on the bill, they have all the worries for tomorrow, you think they have the heart to think about making babies? You ask yourself that. Think about it. So what happened? Less baby. Now, the root cause of the problem is about addressing this social problem. Rather than applying what they call the shortcut way or the quick fix way through foreign influx. If you want a foundation that is strong, you build on those social foundations. And you can build your flags tall and high. Our university is one of the top best, ranking among the top 50s. Isn't it that they produce enough talents to meet the industrial needs? Think about it. We're the top 50 ranking. Maybe there's some extent that we cannot able to meet the requirements. Then we need the foreign talent to help us. We need investors to help us. We need foreign workers to help us in those industries that we short of workers. But surely, our university is capable of producing the talent that we need. If it's not, then something is wrong with our education. Now, the ruling party is telling the voters, by voting for opposition, you will bankrupt our countries. You heard that very often. Now, do you know the government is giving 36 billion of funds to foreigners, foreign students? And do you know the ruling party had over budget the YOG program by almost 300 million. So, now you tell me, with the ruling party, or you call it pay and pay policy, who will go bankrupt first? It is me that will go bankrupt first. The common people at the ground will go bankrupt first. The ruling party feel the opposition has no standing on the policies. They are immune to our noise. They do not need opposition to check on them because they say they can check on themselves. And this is like saying, I set my own exam papers I mark myself, and I grade myself. And the next moment, I start to realize I have got no more blank check. I have got no more blank check to issue. So I ask every citizen here tonight and tell your friends, do not issue your check blindly. Do not give a blank check. Make sure you know you issue the check is for what purpose and for what reason. And my message to the government, listen and feel the heartbeat of the people at the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sami. Let's give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That's the message. Listen to the heartbeat of the people. Everyone turn to your neighbor and says, we have a voice. Turn to your neighbor, yes. Turn to your other neighbor and say, we need a voice in Parliament. We need a voice in Parliament. Listen, too many things are happening. Too many things have happened in the last 4 years since the last election. We came to PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL, and I'm going to take 2 minutes before I introduce the next speaker, because whatever you have heard is important, and I need to reiterate some things even more important, because we are standing in Punggol today. I have been getting lots of letters. We have put our QR codes on our posters, and some of you know how to use this. Some of you who don't know how to use this, on the way home, take our posters, and you notice that on our shirts, there's a little box there. Take your handphone out. Use the QR code reader and you will be redirected to either our Facebook pages or the SDA tube, where you can watch all the rallies online. But many citizens of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL have gone beyond it, and I have got a collection of letters that are coming in, and I'm going to take 2 minutes because we are standing in Punggol. This letter came to me after our rally in PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL, and this gentleman, I know you are here today, but he started the letter saying, don't quote my name, but quote everything that I write here, because what I write here are the pains for the last 15 years that residents in Punggol have been facing. We still don't have basic amenities. When we came here, Punggol was supposed to be one of the new estates. We were supposed to be given the modern facilities. We paid higher price than many other estates in Singapore. But today, after 15 years, we still lack so many missing things. Give yourself a big clap. Your neighbor is speaking. Yes, thank you, man. We can tell you our plans for the future, but let me remind you, we are your voice in Parliament. As we go along, I will be sharing with you SMS messages we are getting on Facebook, and even audio and video recordings of more than thousands of you in PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Now, in a rally like this, we do not have the permission to play those recordings. We were going to do that because when you hear me speak, it may not touch your heart as much as hearing your neighbors speaking and telling and crying out their pains. But do me a favor, go online to SDA Tube. Look for Voice of the Residents, and your neighbors are sharing the pain. Each and every one of them is putting forward the problems, and I will just list to you 6 problems that we have collated from 42 that I got all together, problems in Punggol. After that, we will share with you the 19 action plans that we have for PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL, because this team is not only going to represent all Singaporeans in Parliament to be the voice, but our focus will also be local issues in PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. This gentleman writes, we don't even have a proper polyclinic in Punggol. We shared with Sengkang, and in the whole time when I have been there, bringing my aged grandmother to the resident polyclinic there, the lines are so long, the crowd is so big, my old grandmother cannot take the weight, cannot take the pain. It is already Sengkang by itself so huge. How come Punggol can't have its own? How come can't we have our own better clinics to be catered? He writes and he ends, we spoke to our outgoing MPs so many times. They are aware of these problems, and I quote, they just pretend not to know. This is the pain of Punggol. You feel the same? Yes. Number 2, Young people have young children. And those of you who are sitting down there on the MRT stations, I met a mother. She repeated the same thing which here 3 parents have written. They said, our young children. And someone added, not only the young but even the elderly like to read. We all want to improve our knowledge and information. But where is the library in Punggol? Where in Sengkang they have? Hougang they have? Where is Punggol's library? We need a good library. We need a good place where the elderly can also come together. We need for our children. It has been more than 15 years. If they still couldn't do it in the last 15 years, I don't want to waste my vote and give them another 5 years, says your neighbor. Strong words, yeah? And maybe on that, may I add, give us your vote this time before I read to you the next one. I promise you this much. We already have 19 action step plans. I'll share this with you. And I tell you something funny. We released this about a month ago online on our websites, on our Democratic Alliance web pages. And very conveniently, they picked up on some of these things. Because they have more money, they decided to print beautiful, colorful brochures with proposals we put up for you. And they put it down there to say, now we will do it. If they didn't do it for 15 years, why next 15 days? And I tell you something, the power is not in us. It is your own thoughts that we voice for you. We cannot do this alone. We need each and every one of you to vote that day. Vote for us. Tell your neighbors to do the same. Tell your friends to do the same. And what they haven't done in 15 years, the frustrations you have written on paper, we will try and remove them in the next 5. That is our goal for you. Say yes. Next, number 3, big frustration of Punggol residents. They said it is not affordable to eat in food courts all the time. Today we work, both me and my husband works. Sometimes I come home, I don't have the energy to cook for my family. We always have to go down and eat. And prices have gone up so much higher in food courts. What happened to the good old days of hawker centers? She says, when I was a little girl, my mother used to bring me to hawker centers. I looked left, I looked right. I saw people of all ages. I saw people of all cultures. I saw brothers and sisters from different races. And that brought Singapore into a national Singapore identity. Ladies and gentlemen, we are losing it. We need to come back together. Work for us and we will do all this for you and much more. Number 4. Your neighbors say there are not enough covered walkways in Punggol. Now I'm still focused on Punggol because these are the problems in this area. We spoke to PASIR RIS residents and in 2 days time we will be back in PASIR RIS Park Car Park C. Join us there too and I will share with you the things that we're going to improve for that. But here your neighbor says there are not enough covered walkways that lead us from one place in the HDB blocks to common estate areas. Look at our neighbors, look at other estates. They have got all kinds of covered walkways. We need that because on even rainy days, our umbrellas may not be sufficient. Number 5, they do say we have now got enough population here. 15 years ago when we came, maybe Punggol was starting up. But today, we have enough population, but we don't even have anything other than a small, tiny Punggol mall. We need a shopping center. We need these things to come up. And your neighbor says, yes, give your neighbor a big hand. Because they're right. I go to Next in Serangoon. I go to Tampines. They have 4 to 5 major. Oh, why? In Punggol, are we second-class citizens? Why can't we get something too? So do you want more amenities? Say yes. 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 We will improve that. We need your support. And number 6, this is important. Okay, that's nice. Oh, you remind me of the Kalang Raw. Give him a big hand, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I pause there for 1 second. That song we all used to hear as young Singaporeans. You remember the times of the Kalang Raw? I had your Kalang resident, it's not in this letter, in a separate one. He's a young man who stays here, and he says the soccer scene in the whole of Singapore, the sports scene is also declining because too many not-Singaporeans are becoming Singaporeans to represent us. And the goals of Fandi Ahmad that used to bring the whole of Singapore together, the row in the Kallang that we used to stand up and have, people who used to come from other countries to play soccer, they used to shiver because the Kallang row was the real, true national identity. We have lost it, people. So go, sir, you started, ole, ole, come on, let's do it. Let's bring the national spirit. Let's give yourselves a big hand. And I end up with the last big, out of 42 problems in Punggol. Bicycle sheds at Cove, LRT and other places. We need to have these kind of small things. Now for some of you, these may be small issues, but why are we bringing this up? Is to just tell you two things. That number one, for the SDA, no issue is a small issue. Even if some of you are disturbed, some of you are frustrated, some of you face these issues, we will be the voice for you to bring up these issues. And number two, the more important thing is this. We want something called happiness. Singaporeans are totally stressed out. Look at our pledge we said earlier to achieve, what was the first thing? To achieve happiness, and then what? Prosperity, and then what? Progress for the nation. In the last 50 years, ladies and gentlemen, progress has been achieved from a third world to a first world country. Prosperity has been achieved, but we forgot the very first goal that the pioneer leaders of Singapore wrote, and that was happiness. It is painful. Suicide rates are going up all the time. Look at all the reports. We are listed as one of the countries with the least happiness. Can I ask you for 1 minute? Turn to the person next to you, the same brother and sister from Singapore, and tell him it is time to be happy. Turn to the person on your left. Turn to them, shake hand and say, I think it's time to be happy. Yes. 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 Turn to the person on your right and say, I did not come to this world just to work all my life until I die to pay for these houses, to just pay for my transportation, to pay for my healthcare, to pay for all these expenses. I came so that I could also be happy. Turn to your neighbor and say, it's our birthright. So before I go on and tell you the 19 things, I'd like to invite the next speaker first, because he is also super motivational. He comes from a background, ladies and gentlemen, where he used to be a master in entrepreneurship. He used to teach in the extended executive entrepreneurship programs. He used to be leading companies in the management committees of ISO 9000 certifications. And he used to be a great motivator for air, sea, cargo services workers. He currently is the co-director of the oil field services. And you'll be very happy to know he is one of the candidates for PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL with 15 years and more of ground experience. And he knows what the people want and what to deliver. Finally, before we put our hands together, I would also like to know, and I'd like you to know something very important, that he currently is the president of the Singapore Malay National Organization, PKMS, and that's how we also are very proud to have him on board. Give a big round to Mr. Abu bin Muhammad.
Thank you, Balji. Good evening, residents of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC, citizens, friends, ladies and gentlemen. We are very glad to be here and very thankful for your presence. This is a very important moment in every 4 to 5 years period, and this will be determine the kind of life that we are going to face many years to come for the future generations of our Singaporeans. There must be reasons why Singaporeans are unhappy now, feeling unhappy and very stressful. The destiny of how we are going to lead our lives will depend on us and everyone in this field, and the ones who cannot make it in this rally. The rest of the candidates in our team will deliver their speeches in English and Chinese. For me, let me share in Malay my concern for the betterment of the Malay community as the whole. This is because for whatever the Ministry of the Malay Muslim Affairs has done, it is still not good enough for our community. Salam sejahtera kepada semua penduduk-penduduk Pasir Ris-Punggol GRC. Kawan-kawan, walaupun kita minoriti dalam Malay community, kita adalah satu yang bercampur dengan lain-lain community untuk bersatu menjadi orang Singapura. Saya ingin mengutarakan untuk anda semua usulan-usulan dengan minda yang terbuka. Kita boleh bekerjasama untuk berjaya melaksanakan kemanfaatan. Saya ingin menyentuh mengenai kertas putih penduduk. Kenapa kita tidak dapat menerima kertas putih jumlah penduduk yang menganggarkan jumlah penduduk seramai 6.5 hingga 6.9 juta penduduk menjelang tahun 2030. Walaupun kami faham bahawa tujuannya adalah untuk merangsang pertumbuhan ekonomi negara, adakah kemungkinan bahawa aspek sosial dan keselamatan akan terjejas? Dari pemikiran sudut infrastruktur, juga adakah kerajaan bersedia untuk menampung pertambahan yang mendadak ini? Dengan data-data menunjukkan jumlah populasi penduduk kepada luas kawasan tanah Singapura adalah satu bilangan penduduk tertinggi dibanding negara-negara maju yang lain. Dengan peningkatan bilangan warga asing yang semakin meningkat, rakyat sebenar Singapura akan menjadi minoriti tidak lama lagi di masa akan datang. Oleh itu, manakah identiti warga negara Singapura? Kelahiran di Singapura telah menurun oleh sebab-sebab tertentu. Tetapi kita perlu menggalakkan rakyat Singapura untuk melahirkan anak atau mengambil anak angkat supaya anak-anak ini akan membesar dengan nilai-nilai Singapura sendiri untuk berkhidmat kepada negara dan memelihara bangsa kita. Kita perlu beranak pinak dan mengembangkan rakyat kita sendiri dan tidak mengimport dari luar, kerana ia membawa kepada canggahan nilai harga diri dan kepercayaan, juga akan jauh daripada integrasi ke dalam budaya kita, dan sebaliknya kita akan kehilangan identiti Singapura pula. Kita tidak mampu untuk mempunyai negara yang penuh dengan warga asing yang datang ke sini untuk membuat keuntungan tetapi tidak mempunyai kesetiaan kepada negara kita. Adakah kita mahu keadaan itu begitu? Sekiranya berlakunya peperangan, misalnya, adakah mereka akan melarikan diri dan pulang ke tanah air mereka? Adakah mereka mengambil berat tentang sejarah kita dan apa yang telah menjadikan kita Singapura yang unik? Fikirkanlah sendiri. SDA akan memperjuangkan rakyat sebenar Singapura di dalam perlembagaan supaya memastikan bahawa jawatan-jawatan politik tertinggi, pertahanan, perundangan dan lain-lain jawatan perkhidmatan awam dipegang oleh anak-anak tempatan Singapura. SDA akan berdiri teguh dengan mengatakan tidak kepada 6,9 juta jumlah penduduk. Kami menghargai identiti unik diperbuat daripada 4 kaum. 4 kaum yang bersatu padu. 4 kaum utama yang hidup dengan harmoni sebagai satu dan akan berdiri bersama-sama dalam satu raungan singa. Kami akan berdiri teguh untuk menentang PAP atas membawa masuk besar-besaran warga asing ke Singapura yang berlumba-lumba bersaing untuk rumah kita, kerja kita, sekolah-sekolah kita, infrastruktur awam kita dengan menjadi warga baru. Kami akan memelihara nilai Singapura untuk rakyat Singapura. Dan dalam setiap perkara yang penting dan manfaat akan kekal sebagai rakyat Singapura terdahulu. Maknanya Singapura didulukan, rakyat Singapura didahulukan. Di rapat pertama kemarin di Pasir Ris, kami telah mengutarakan usulan-usulan mengenai simpanan special account dalam caruman CPF diberi kelonggaran kegunaan bagi keperluan penting. Juga kami telah mengusulkan sumbangan MBF dalam simpanan CPF juga dari sudut kegunaan simpanan tersebut, dari sudut manfaatkan lebih ke arah membina kemajuan keperluan masyarakat Melayu Islam Singapura. Banyak lagi yang kami telah mempersiapkan bagaimana dapat kita laksanakan usulan-usulan berkenaan. Saudara-saudara semua, kita kenal pasti akan wujudnya Yayasan Mendaki dan apa yang telah dilakukan, program-program selama ini. Kita mengharapkan Mendaki dapat melaksanakan lebih baik untuk membantu murid-murid atau pelajar-pelajar sederhana ke peringkat kecemerlangan. Kita mahu lebih dari itu, yakni membantu lebih banyak lagi murid-murid yang tak bermampu atau berkemampuan supaya dapat meneruskan ke peringkat sekolah menengah, kolej dan universiti. Kita harus ada satu rumusan untuk mengurus sendiri, mempertingkatkan kemajuan masyarakat kita sendiri supaya setara dengan bangsa-bangsa lain. Dengan ini juga kita dapat melahirkan sarjana-sarjana tertinggi dalam masyarakat kita. Kita akan usulkan pihak kementerian yang bertanggungjawab supaya tanah wakaf yang telah diurus dengan mendapat keuntungan kepulangan dari pembangunan private digunakan untuk mempertingkatkan lagi kemajuan masyarakat kita. Juga mengagihkan kepada keperluan peningkatan pelajaran masyarakat Melayu Singapura, kebajikan sosial dan kepada masyarakat tua yang benar-benar menghadapi kesukaran dalam keperluan kehidupan harian. Kita akan usulkan supaya dari kementerian ini juga semua persatuan-persatuan atau organisasi Melayu Islam seperti AMP, SMCCI, Mendaki juga yang lain-lain dapat membantu peniaga-peniaga Melayu supaya dapat meluaskan dalam perkembangan perniagaan yang kemajuan melalui network regional, memandangkan sekeliling negara-negara jiran kita yang terdekat mempunyai banyak persamaan dari segi budaya dan bahasa. Kita mahu Menteri Hal Ehwal Masyarakat Melayu Islam dapat mencari jalan, membuka pintu atau ruang dan peluang perniagaan globalisasi untuk masyarakat kita meningkat maju dan menjadi masyarakat dinamis. Secara ringkas, sebagai pemimpin kita harus fokus jauh dan inisiatif-inisiatif mencari rumusan program-program untuk mempertingkatkan masyarakat ke arah kemajuan. Dengan itu, kita akan mencapai kemajuan di taraf sama dengan taraf dan kemajuan bangsa lain di Singapura. Dengan mandat sokongan anda, apa yang akan kita usulkan dapat dilaksanakan untuk kepentingan rakyat Singapura. Maksud saya rakyat Singapura keseluruhannya yang telah kita bina sendiri. Undilah SDA. SDA adalah orang yang mempunyai jiwa untuk rakyat Singapura. Tidak kira bangsa, tidak kira bahasa, tidak kira agama. Kita kekal sebagai empat yang ada selama ini, yaitu bersatu padu. Terima kasih.
Ladies and gentlemen, big round for Mr. Abu Muhammad once again, please. Thank you, sir, for this inspiring speech. For those of us who are not very familiar with the Malay language, pun tak begitu bagus, tapi I was listening and I was taking notes, and I'll just share in summary some of the key points that he brought up. He started by telling us about the population white paper, 6.9 million. If you look at all the boards that are going around, they have been put up all over your estate too. SDA says the population white paper that says by 2030 we want to have a higher population of 6.9 million in Singapore. That is their goal, and SDA is very much against it on certain grounds. Number one, as he explained, our infrastructure may not be ready to take up this influx. Could it be possible that as we keep increasing, we are already having overcrowded MRT stations? Our bus interchanges are full. There is thank you, sir. Plus, everywhere you go, give yourself a big hand, because this is our problem. And he rightly mentioned that these are the issues that are being faced. Maybe our infrastructure was not ready yet, and the government started bringing in too many people too fast, and we need to have a slowdown. Crazy. Thank you, ma'am. You are right. No brain. Oh wow. Thank you. Give her a big hand. She said the right words. That was very crazy and no brains. So SDA says we are very against the population white paper that is rushing to bring it up to 6.9. And I've been getting messages because we spoke about this at length in PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC. But the government, if you notice in the last few days, they have not been mentioning anything about this population white paper. There seems to be some radio silence from the outgoing government. Ladies and gentlemen, as we do the walkabouts, as we go to the coffee shops, as we knock on your houses, every Singaporean is crying about this population paper. You go to other rallies by other parties, they are also starting to talk about this. But the outgoing government has not mentioned anything in the last few days, and we wonder why. We will propose a very strong cut down on these until the infrastructure is ready. And I like to reiterate, please remember, SDA is not against foreigners coming into Singapore. We love the ones who are the foreign talent, who help to teach us even skills we may not know, who bring in all the industry knowledge that we need, but to keep them forever, that's also another question. Second thing, we are always welcoming all the investors who help our economy, because please remember, SDA also wants the economy to go up. Number three, the foreign workers that are coming in, we welcome them because there are certain jobs that Singaporeans are not ready to take up. But SDA strongly stands against the middle people, the foreigners who are coming in and taking away the jobs of our local Singaporeans. I spoke about, thank you. I spoke about this Yes, thank you. I spoke about this at the other rally, and the example I gave was some Singaporean lady who shared her story that it was a foreigner supervisor who was giving more rights to the foreigners when she was taking them on the job. But this afternoon, before I came in here, a fellow Singaporean called us, and he said, Palji, if anybody says all these stories are not true, he said on the phone to me, I am a Singaporean, you don't know me, but I will come forward and I'll tell you, because the same problems are even happening in my workplace, where our own Singaporean brothers and sisters are not being given priorities because foreigners are willing to take our jobs, which we are very capable of doing, but at maybe a little bit of lower pay. Give our jobs back. Our people need it too.
I agree. Fully agree.
He also said to me on the phone just now, because the foreigners, their families are not here, they are willing to stay back after work. They are willing to come back on the weekends. But he told me on the phone, I am a Singaporean. I have to go back to my wife. I have to take care of a little child. On one side, the government says we don't have enough children. On the other side, you don't give me a proper work-life balance. How will I be a good father to my children? Yes, and most importantly, the third point that he said to me very simply on the phone, Palji, I'm willing to come up because I was afraid in the last election. Now listen to his words, because maybe it is not just he who's talking. He said in the last election, some people told me, maybe your voting is not secret. You vote, they may know you didn't vote for the outgoing people. But he said, yes, it's wrong, but he said to me on the phone, and I quote, he says, even if they know, although I know today that my vote is secret, but listen to his words. He said, my fear is gone, because more painful is the bad situation they have put us in. And I don't care, even if they know, I will vote against them. But I want to reassure all voters of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL and Singapore, your vote is secret. When you go to voting this September 11, your vote is secret. Tell your neighbors that too. I know that fear is gone, that fear is going away. We are much more educated, and we all think just because of certain running numbers, they may know. Does not matter. Yes, thank you, ma'am. The important thing is, be brave. Let us all be brave. Turn to your neighbor and say, be brave. Turn to your other neighbor and say, let's vote for the right people. Yes, SDA. Thank you. Now, as I welcome the next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, he's not on our candidate list, but he's a very special gentleman who has taken his time out to be with us. He used to be the former executive secretary of the Hokkien Association in Singapore. In his early student days, he was a very famous activist, and some of you will know him very, very well. And today, he lectures privately, and he will be speaking to us, ladies and gentlemen, maybe mostly in Hokkien too, to connect to those parts of our electorate voters who understand that language better. I will not take more time because he is one powerful speaker. Please put your hands together for Mr. Lim Kim Soon.
PASIR PUNGGOL 嘅兄弟姊妹，大家好。新加坡真水吼，700公里啊！當今咱嘅政府講要690萬人口。
我努力最高了。
按呢來講，1公里1萬人都講會虧嘞。四個獎啊！真正啦！真正正啦！所以咱就要到这个新加坡民主聯盟立國會，新加坡民主聯盟當選啦！所以咧，咱有 新加坡人的教育水平安尼低，咱需要安尼做外国人代替人做工咩？
袂使啦。
咱的大学排名全世界50，安怎咱就要请安尼做外国人来做工？
我会感觉偏啊。打到偏。
新加坡人无敢做部分，只要安怎？投反对党入国会。政府讲免监督，伊家己监督会使袂？要监督政府，就要投反对党入国会。对。所以咧，新加坡政府真够批评反对党，这个袂使，迄个袂使，政府会使袂？敢若使对啦。鸟翅拍一只，差不多500块。你假使讲，予我200块，我保证啊，到顶一只鸟翅分无啊。所以这政府做什么？我袂晓。做无物件对啦，所以要政府做物件，投反对党。投 SDA。咱的小贩中心一个翻新，逐项起啊！所以咱的生活是薪酬要愈贵，无办法生活，投反对党。
对啦。
政府做什么物件？你做物件就是不是对的。雷曼兄弟的投资，成本有差不多2000万，有代志无？无代志吼。咱的山澎湖区的小肉有问题，有代志无？拢总无代志啦，家己人啊，拍死无相干啦。所以这个政府就要监督变，就监督就要投反对党入国会。政府的鼓励工，超100万的鼓励工。
对啦。
咱的下骹的工人，鼓励工会使少加1000块，会敢袂？袂敢，投反对党入国会。假使讲咱的部长有变互所有的新加坡人几十千一个月鼓励工，你扣几百万下个代志，但是有做到无？新加坡人鼓励工拼命的压迫但是咱部长的鼓励工，伊讲3年还袂起啊，100万无够啊，叫伊困啊对啦。
咱人吃老苦处啦。
国会内面，政府的这个议员在困啊，困袂起对啦。伊当今大选佫咧讲什么？伊无讲要安怎照顾人民，安怎改善人民的生活，伊咧攻击反对党啊！对啦，伊有嘴讲别人，无嘴讲家己，要人来讲伊，就要投反对党入国会。咱的政府做官做50-60年啊，到毕了啦哈。对啦，就要洗脑啦。 闹生产了啦，我做久了啊，变做伊是主人啊，伊是讲让人民是伊的管理人啊，啊，所以人民是头家，咱就要投反对党立国会，咱就要做头家，啊，咱无投这反对党立国会，按怎去做头家？换人做做看，对啦，咱的这个厝愈起愈贵，面积是愈来愈小，这种叫做生啊侪囝，困倒落。咱的厝愈来愈贵，20万、30万，有的是100万公有。后生囝买袂起，对啦，所以就要投反对党立国会。对，就来投去就对啦。啊，假使国会反对党无够，政府是讲伊是主人，伊要安怎样就是安怎样。无监督的政府，就是独裁的政府，所以这个政府就要投伊落台。伊政府做较贵了，较多了，啊，绝对权力绝对不败，对不？咱的政府本来要起个管理岗，你的管理岗有起无？
姑姑吃姑姑啊！
对啦，做姑姑吃姑姑，困姑姑啊！对啊，所以叫你吸抓皮啦，叫你 exercise 啦，啊，咱叫你困对啦，啊，咱就要投反对党立国会。保证咱的老人家有人照顾，免去捡纸皮，免去这款的运动。啊！啊，咱无爱学啊，这个总理的老爸啦，做到死为止啦。但是伊叫100万鼓励工，做到死不要紧啦。你一日捡几十块，赚几十块捡纸皮，按你款来做，可怜代啊！对啦，你看叫会使无良心啊！啊，做官做安尼款无良心，唔捌来使。对啦，禽兽党啊，唔是人的党啊！这个民主联盟的候选人可能有真侪物件来交代，所以呢，我就讲到这阵为止。感谢各位。
Thank you, sir, for that inspiring speech. Let's give a big round of applause once again, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, I want to also share something that was in Hokkien. I liked it, that interaction that was going on with all of you, especially that wonderful sharp lady and the gentleman. Let's give them a big round of applause. I like that. Thank you. That's the words of the people. And I also want to share something very important for the residents of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC. Now, we know in certain parts of the country, a lot of people have been talking and a lot of to and fro is going on with the outgoing government about town council issues, correct? They are saying, oh no, they did a bad job and nobody can do a good job, and they are in deficit and they also were in deficit, and so much fight that it's actually, I tell you very frankly, the emails and the calls we are getting, it is sad because they are saying that the outgoing government, instead of really putting the focus on true issues that are faced by Singaporeans, they are just playing a badminton game to try and distract everybody. Say, oh no! But I want to tell you something very important. The man who just spoke just now is part of a very important team. For the last 1 year, PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC residents, you have to know what I'm going to say and share it with every neighbor. For the last 1 year and more, Mr. Desmond Lim, who will be speaking to you later, and I will also be reading a letter of testimonial letter from Mr. Chiam Si Tong, because Mr. Desmond has 14 years of running a town council for Mr. Chiam in Potong Pasir, and when he was doing that, there were no deficits, there were always surpluses, and all the SNC charges until today are the lowest for them. Say wow! Wow! We are lucky to have him as one of the candidates and one of the people who will be running for this election. But more importantly, for the last 1 year and more, he has been training the speaker that you heard and his friends in what we call the Shadow Town Council. So for the last 1 year, we have been preparing ourselves for September 11, 2015. Say wow! Wow! We are ready to take over. We have got a 13-point steps to take over your town council. And these people, he is in fact already going to be the head of administration for the town council that's going to take over from September 11. Say yes! Yes. And these people are not blind. We are not going to make sure your town council goes down. Instead, our training for the last 1 year has been preparing people like him, plus the full town council, to make sure that the takeover is the smoothest, the takeover is the fastest. And when we take over, because of his 14 years of experience in running a good town council and their 1 year of training under him, your town council in PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL will never have deficits. Say yes. Yes. Will always be in surplus. Say yes. Yes. And any other surplus that comes in, we will love to give that back to you. So go home today, rest assured in PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL that the internal affairs of your town council will also be very well taken care of. And give yourselves a big hand for that. With that, I want you to go home and tell every neighbor on the way home, vote fearlessly. It is okay if there is a badminton game going on with that old party and the other party. Let them have that badminton. You deficit, you also deficit. You deficit, you more deficit. You also. Hello, in that badminton game, what about our population problems? What about our healthcare issues? What about our return CPF at 55? What about our education issues? These are important things. And if you don't vote for us, nobody will be the voice. Vote for SDA. Undilah SDA. Thank you. Terima kasih. Now the next speaker who's going to come up. Let me introduce to you the next speaker. He is the Vice President one of the Singapore Malay National Organization. He is also the Central Executive Committee member of the Singapore Democratic Alliance. He is currently pursuing his Bachelor of Science in Management, and he has certificates in strategic thinking and also applied psychology in negotiation and more things. Ladies and gentlemen, I just spoke a minute ago about town council and how wonderfully we are preparing ourselves to run it for you. But also, may I touch, just like him who has diplomas and qualifications in strategic thinking, the SDA team also has a think tank that is working behind the scenes. I have a whole file here with speeches, with motions that have been prepared already, and with policy matters, because we are not an MP team. We are not just going to oppose for the sake of opposing. We are not just going to make noise without substance. But people like him and our think tank team, some of them may not be coming up in front because they are lecturers in universities, they are lecturers in polytechnics, and they want to protect their rice bowl. We respect their privacy, but behind the scenes, These people are helping us to formulate policies, to formulate plans, and have proposals in place so that the day you put us in Parliament, we will be your effective voice of the people. Say yes. That's where SDA is different from every other party. And I want you to go out there, pass this word to your neighbors, because not just local issues, but national issues will also be taken care of. So before I go further, he has 3 beautiful children. Ladies and gentlemen, this man speaks from his heart, with his knowledge, with his skills. Please, please, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Malay Ismail.
Thank you, Paul, for the introduction. Good evening to PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL residents. Good evening to fellow Singaporeans. The time has come for you all to vote, to represent you in Parliament. I will deliver my speech in English as I want to share, to send the right message and make fellow Singaporeans to be more aware of my subject matters. And we fully needed your support. This is not about my agenda. This is not about SDA agenda. This is about Singaporeans' agenda. In the past, I'm like you all, standing in front of the speakers. But things have changed now. I need to put forward my topic this very night. My topic is about the Malay dilemma. Why this topic? But why? You be my judge. Like the Workers' Party Secretary General has said, let the voters decide. Singaporeans has just celebrated 50 years birthday or GE2015, and I want to see whether we Malay, I repeat myself, we Malay can be proud of our achievement or so-called progress. I start with a report by one MMO. This is not Minister Mentors, yeah? This is about Malay Muslim organization. In the report, it is stated that much of the positive metrics the Malay Muslim community are derived, where we benchmark the community now against where it was 10, 20 years ago. And this is called the absolute performance. The reality, however, is that there are gaps between the Malay Muslim community and other communities in Singapore. This is called the relative performance. Some of these gaps are in fact widening. Basically, the report derived with 2 types. Number 1, as I said earlier, absolute performance. Number 2, as I said earlier, is the relative performance. What is this absolute performance and what is this relative performance? Let me share with you all. Absolute performance has been put in the report 10-20 years ago. Let's say this is my example. In the past, let's say I do not have a house. So after 10-20 years later, I have a house, 3-room flats. So that is called absolute performance. No house, with 1 house, even 3 rooms. Remember, absolute performance. Let's say 10-20 years ago, we have only 1 person who is a doctor. Let's say, this is my example. Then later, we have 1 doctor. Compare 10 to 20 years ago, we have 1 doctor. That is absolute performance, 0 to 1. As long as you have a change, that is absolute performance. Now I bring you to the relative performance, which is very alarming. Other races, 10-20 years ago, they can afford to buy 4-room flats, 5-room flats, EC, condominium, and landed property. And for us, the Malays, we are lagging behind. And we talk about professionals, we are still lagging behind. In a fiercely competitive environment like Singapore, it is the relative performance which is the more relevant metric, not the absolute performance where our ministers has used. The Malay Muslim community has to compete with others to the best schools and tertiary institutions for scholarships and for jobs. Singapore has become more competitive as the most globalized country in the world, and with a stated policy of attracting the so-called foreign talent. The level of competition will increase with the 6.9 millions that they are planning in. The Malay Muslim community now finds itself in a position where it is not only competing with other race, but also with the so-called foreign talents. Who will suffer? Who? Now is Singaporeans at large will suffer. Should we worry? Yes, we should worry. I'm going to share you about my examples about the Malay dilemma. Do anyone know what is the highest scholarship award a person can get in Singapore? Presidentship Scholar. President Scholarship. Do you know how many Malays have received this award? 2. 50 years. 50 years. We have only 2. It is fair. I put it to you. Is this fair? No. National Day Rally, where Lee Hsien Loong has mentioned, he said that the Malay have 2 fighter pilots. One is a fighter jet, another one is a helicopter fighting helicopter. After 50 years, we only have 2. Is this fair? I put it to you again. Is this fair? I give you my 3 examples. After 50 years, recently we have another minister. As I said again, 50 years. 50 years is a long period. We have only 2 full-fledged ministers in Singapore. Is this fair? I put it to you. Is this fair? This is my sharing. I have attended Singapore Democratic Party Forum in 2013, and it is about the Malay white paper. And one of the subtopic, it is mentioned that we are wasting our Malay talent. That means the government. The current system is placed obstacles in the way the Malay community and thwarting and impeding its progress in society. As a result, Singapore is not only not developing the Malay full potential, but also losing an integral part of our national identity. In that forum, I stood up in the room and shared the sentiment and the affection to the participants, and this is what I said. We Malays want to be able to contribute to Singapore like any other races. We Malays want to progress in Singapore like any other races. And we Malay want to be as successful like any other races. And with this, I end my speech for tonight. I thank you, really, from the bottom of my heart. You have listened through your ears, and you have also listened through your heart. Let's band together. Let's decide our future. Vote for change. Vote for SDA. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's give you a big round of applause once again for that inspiring speech. Thank you, sir. You know, our pledge says regardless of race. Regardless of race, language or religion. Today you heard speeches in Chinese earlier. You heard speeches in Hokkien. Of course, most of us were also speaking in English. You also heard from Mr. Abu Muhammad in Malay. And you also just heard some of the cries of the pain of the Malay Muslim community. The Singapore Democratic Alliance is the coming together of different parties. And that's what we want to see in the future. In this election, if you notice, no opposition parties are fighting three-corner fights. This is a good start, and let's give all opposition parties a big hand for that first. And Singapore Democratic Alliance has been leading the way, and that's why two of our component parties include the PKMS, that represents the Malay National Organization, and also the Singapore Justice Party. We will stand up not just like he spoke for the rights of the Malay Muslims, but for every race, to make sure that Singapore's community remains one that lives happily as brothers and sisters, coming together from different parts of the world, regardless of, say together with me, regardless of race, language or religion. He spoke about, let's give that a big applause. I think that's something uniquely Singapore. Thank you. He spoke very much about raising the social mobility, and I want to just extend from the examples that he gave for the Malay Muslim community, because it is not just the Malay Muslims that he mentioned as examples, but every other person who is being left behind. We need to bring them up, we need to raise them, we need to help them get good jobs, especially for local Singaporeans, both for the graduates and undergraduates, and we want to give them good career and salary prospects. A few days ago, we spoke at NUS, and it was a gathering of all the young people who will be graduating soon. And even in that crowd, lots of them came up and said, our parents have spent so much of money for the last 16 to 18 years educating us. But now, as we go out to the working world in the next 1 or 2 years, we are also worried, will we get a good job that can sustain and pay for the overpriced HDB houses, that can pay for us to get married, that can pay for us to start a family, that can pay for us to bring up children, that can pay for us for everything. And listen to the next line. She said, forget about owning a car or even any other four-wheel vehicle. Listen to this carefully. She says, I'm a graduate, but I cry what my father tells me every day. She says, my father cries because he is the only sole breadwinner in the family. He always gets late because whenever he takes public transports, it is overcrowded, it breaks down, it is unreliable. So he used to go around on motorbike. And she says, he being the only one who is earning in the family cannot afford to even buy a car, but he needs to move around. And she says his motorbike COE, it was finishing after 10 years. He was told, do you want to extend any more? And if you do, your next 10 years, the COE will already cost you another $6,000. And she says, he didn't even have enough savings after paying for me, my brother's education and all the food, the water, the shelter and other family expenses. And this is at NUS, a graduate who you can say already understands, is mature enough to see our problems, who is going to be voting for the very first time. And she is crying, what is happening to a country where I thought I will have a future? And this lady, give her a big hand because I tell you the last sentence. This lady says a motorbike, and I repeat and I quote her words, a motorbike is not a vehicle of luxury. A motorbike is a vehicle which my father needs to go around to do his work. A motorbike is the only means that effectively allows him to bring home money on the table, to put food on the table and to pay for my brother and my education. But if the COE already costs 6,000 for a motorbike, what is going to happen to the common Singaporeans? Something to think about. Oil prices have gone down around the world. You want to talk about that? Don't talk about luxury cars and all. Oil prices have gone all over the world down. And everybody writes to us, what about our taxes, our road taxes, our COEs? The cost of transportation is already so expensive. Don't even talk about the reliability. They break down too often. What is wrong with us here? Something is wrong. And you need a change. Ladies and gentlemen, listen. There is a very wise saying, if you keep doing the same thing the same way and you expect different results, that is the definition of insanity. Now the same thing has been done by the same people for too long. We need a change. Vote for us. We need to be your voice. Yes. Now this brings me to the next topic which you have been hearing again and again. And the last rally, some people came to us with a board that says 55. Have you seen the 55 and 6.9 all around your estate? The 55 says return our CPF at 55, and the 6.9 says we are against that paper. And a lot of people were saying, I want to buy this, I want to bring this home, that even after the election, I can remind myself at least some brave people were willing to stand up for the rights of Singaporeans. But I got good news for you. We are not selling these things. But if these things have touched your heart so much, yes, adopt them, take them home. Come, give us anything you want to, or just bring these boards, adopt them home. Because yesterday you saw in one of the rallies at the other side, one of the HDB houses outside had a LED of their party symbol. Because the people of Singapore are waking up. Because the people of Singapore are recalling that the power lies in each and every one of your hands. Say yes. Yes. And if you want a better future, none of us here six can do it alone. Each and every one of you going to be the voice of the people. Each and every one of you going to tell your neighbors, and each and every one of you going to cast the vote to give us the power to be your representatives. Say yes. Yes. And now I invite the next speaker. Because rallies and all get all these, fiery speeches. But the next speaker is an amazing man. Some of you may know him as a movie director from the past. I'll give you some introduction to him in a while. And at the last rally, he released a song in Hokkien. And if those of you who have not heard it, like I said earlier from our brochures, if you turn at the back, there is also a QR code. Use your handphones, click on the QR code, you will go to the SDA Tube TV and you can listen to this song. It's in Hokkien. But a lot of people later were asking me, what is it saying? So I'll take 1 minute to run through the meanings, because the meanings of this song are very meaningful. And I'm sure it will touch so many of your hearts. Maybe not just your heart, but think of the pioneer generation of Singaporeans. Think of the older people who worked hard for so many years, who put together their money, and they were promised, look at the board, that when you're 55, you will get back your money so you can retire, lead your old age in comfort. But listen to their cry. The song says, I ask the heavens for my CPF. The song says, you are really angry. I am also angry. The heavens are also angry because they never protected me. Now the grammar may not be perfect because it's a song, but listen to it. Feel the words in your heart, because one day, if you're not 55 yet, you will be 55. If you have already crossed 55 and you're still waiting for your money, you will be crying. And as I finish reading this, I'm going to end up with one story of a real person from PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL, whose father vomited blood next to that coffee shop there. But he did not even tell his family how sick he was, because he couldn't take out money to be treated. Do you want to have families like that? Say no. That's why the song says, I really cry. I am really angry. Even the heavens are really angry. I work. My work gone. I am old. My money also gone. CPF wait until they don't know when they will come. CPF said, I will come. But CPF never come. No, this is the man. He will be speaking to you shortly. It's a nice song in Hokkien. Watch the video. I didn't understand the words until I got it translated. And he says, next line, I asked my MP, when my CPF come? My money got tied up by you so tightly, but my CPF no come. Next, yes. He said, I asked the heaven, where my CPF gone? I wait so long. I become so frustrated. I die of frustration. I asked the heaven, when my CPF come? But the CPF no come. Why the government hurt me? Always make me wait for nothing. My retirement money, my blood, sweat earnings. I wait and wait, but the CPF no come. I don't want to wait another year. I don't want to wait another 5. I don't want to suffer for another 10 years, because the CPF money now they are saying wait until 65, wait until 67 lah. Wait, then we'll give you in installments slowly. That one I'm going to share with you 1 minute's time. If you don't cry, I'll tell you that's such a sad story of a PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. But wait, it says in the next line, you really angry, I really angry. Heaven never protect me. Housing cost increase. Medical costs increase until I cannot live my daily life. Increase until I sick also got no money. I ask me, where got meaning if got no money? My money never come. My CPF never come. The last two paragraphs gets more interesting. It said, now I cried. Now I ask the heavens, where is my CPF gone? I ask you, also ask the heaven, where is the CPF? Because I am being tortured day by day. Now I turn to the heaven. I got no one else to turn to. Now I ask the heaven, when will I get my CPF? Originally was 55. Now is 67. Now with installment. But remember, oh heaven, this was my blood, sweat earnings. This was my money for retirement. You shouldn't let me earn for another 10 years. Where is my CPF gone? And the last paragraph. I ask the heavens, where is my CPF money? Why are you making me wait? Why do you want me to die in frustration? Why my CPF gone? And listen to the next line. He says, when it's time to retire, my IC I have to surrender, which means I die. Yes, you laugh loudly. Wait. The day you get the CPF and you retire, suddenly he says, my IC I have to give back. But this was my hard-earned money. This was money for my retirement. Oh, please, heaven, don't make me suffer another 10 years. Where is my CPF money gone? Give him a big round of applause, ladies. Maybe before I bring him on stage, I want you to turn to your neighbor and say, it is time to get our CPF back. Yes, turn to your neighbor and remind each other. And now turn to the other neighbor and tell him something very important. Tell him the government has responded. I tell you the good news now. Listen to this very carefully. We have been bringing up this issue for a lot of weeks now, even before the elections were declared. We have been talking about return our CPF at 55. If not the whole money, we are saying give us the choice. And some of you who came to the last rally, you know we are saying that those people who can handle their money, let them take the full money. If they can get better returns at 55, let them invest their money. And those who can't, never mind, give them a choice to leave the money, let the government grow for us so we don't lose the money. We are reasonable people. Is that fair? Yes, that's very fair. Now I'll tell you something. Last few days I'm very happy to read the newspaper because now they are also saying, the outward government says, yes, it's a good idea. Maybe we'll give the people the choice. But the missing point is, they're still stuck at 65. They're not listening. We want it at 55 as promised. And I'm going to say two things. First, give yourselves a big hand, because if you gave us a chance to speak, we spoke for you, and we spoke, and they are listening that money needs to be given back. Although maybe not the full thing, they now got to listen a lot more. Say yes. Yes. And to listen a lot more, they need to reduce their numbers in parliament. We need to increase our numbers. Say yes. Yes. And to increase our numbers, you got to pick up your phones. You got to tell everybody in the next 3 days, vote for SDA. Say yes. Now, some of you I know have come from other parts of Singapore, but I'll just take 1 minute and I'm going to be a little bit solemn because the next story is no laughing matter. It happened to one gentleman who came for the previous rally, and he searched for my Facebook account and sent me this message. I will never read your names out. I'll never declare what your faces look like. But we promise to be your voice to speak for you. He said, for these genius people who say CPF system is good that they pay out slowly to retirees, I want to share with you, Palji, this story, and feel free to share with all Singaporeans. He says, my late father, he retired and every month he got $300 a month. That is $10 a day. And he says after all the high expenses in Singapore, probably left with only $3. He says, my father was very ill. He had to visit the hospital every month. Now you think $300 will be enough to cover the taxi fare and medication? He says, of course no. And he says, with regards to MediSave, I'm very confused because he was told that he could not use the MediSave for certain appointments there is apparently a limit imposed on the use of Medisafe. He goes on to say, my dad had hidden the fact from my mum and me that he had cancer. My dad had hidden the fact from my mum and me that he had cancer. This was only made known to us after we spoke to some of his friends after his death. My dad didn't want our family to run into financial issues. My dad didn't want our family to be in debt. What broke my heart was when some of his friends told us that he was at the coffee shop with them and they saw him vomiting blood on the coffee shop drain while they sat with him. They quickly wanted to call an ambulance, but my father refused because he didn't want to be a burden with medical costs to my mother and me. He was 67 when he died. He had more than 50,000 in his CPF account, and he writes in big letters which he could not use for his treatment, and decided to hide his illness from his family. So this GE2015, Palji, you and your team have my support. I will tell my neighbors, I will tell my friends, but I will tell you to tell everybody that don't let your father, your mother, your beloved ones hide their illnesses, because there are many more sick people who cannot afford to live. And it says in the last line, Singaporeans know we rather die than fall sick. Yes. I don't know how many of you have other relatives in pain, in sorrow, silently suffering. Singaporeans, we are a first world country. The question we need to ask is, do we have a first world heart for the people in our country? It is one thing being first world. It is one thing being a hotel to all the foreigners, to all the rich who come here and enjoy, but our own local people suffer. That to me is not really a first world company. Say, oh no. Yes. We need to have a heart for the people. We don't want to have more people vomiting on our coffee shops because they are ill, they are dying, but they don't want to be a burden to their family. 50,000 in his CPF, but he couldn't use. And I want to tell you our stand, and then I invite the next speaker. So SDA says that the Medisafe, we know there are limitations, we know there are restrictions, but the most important thing, the outpatient treatments are getting higher and more medical cost of healthcare is going up. And SDA proposes that those Singaporeans should suffer in silence because of their illness, and we want all caps to be removed and Medisafe to be liberalized so everyone can be treated well. Say yes. Yes. Vote for SDA. Now the next speaker, as I introduced his song on CPF, he is none other than Mr. Atero Lim. He has been an art director, a film director, and he has made many movies all over this part of the world. He even directed a feature political funny Chinese film, and he has managed a successful service apartment management company career for many years. He has been an activist in the conservation and the peace line movement. Ladies and gentlemen, this man has been awarded Outstanding Service Awards for rendered services to his school as student leaders and throughout his life. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our singing politician, Mr. Atero Lim.
Thank you, Habitesi. Residents of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL, fellow Singaporeans, and many friends who have come from other parts of Singapore. I'm slightly moved because I think I didn't expect Mr. Singh to actually translate the song that I had written. When I wrote that song, it was not from some research. It was wholly from my heart, from my experience, from my observations in life. At the age of 60, I'm not a young man making imaginary fictional stories, writing a song. I'm writing about life, just like what I have written in my many drama scripts or movie scripts. I wrote about underclass, which is my pet subject, about poor people, about the financial hardship, about them being marginalized in society because of their stature or status, the underclass. And back in 1987, my script, TV movie script was rejected and was rejected by Singapore and was accepted in Malaysia and was made into a TV movie in Cantonese, which was distributed and broadcast in China and other parts of the world. I was very glad that I was given a chance by Malaysia. Now, I want to say that over the 50 years, now we've come a long way in Singapore. What have we experienced that is most impressive? Think about it. You go to the temples today, especially the Chinese. Each time I go to the Middle Road Guan Yin Temple, the Chinese will pray. And therefore, they say, 我问天, 我问天. Because why? They don't know where to seek solace, where to seek the answers. Because many people have instead of praying to Guan Yin, they pray to Guan Yu. They worship Guan Yu. And look at it, after 50 years, why we have so many problems in our society? It's becoming a dysfunctional society. All people who cannot afford to stop working, who cannot afford to retire, who have sickness that they cannot afford to be treated. Is this the type of society we want? No. We have given them 50 full years, 5 decades, for the government, for the PAP government to look after us. And they have let us down, especially the old folks. The young people. I say the young people because why? The scholarship, the money from the budget, much of it, up to hundreds of millions, have been allocated to sponsor foreign students studying here, to make them settle down, and so that they can go back and perform for the countries, serve their countries. And what about our children? Our children are forced to what? Parents cough up money, have our children go to Australian universities, and then they cannot find jobs back home. Is this the type of treatment we want? No. 我现在讲一点华语。我说了很多穷人呐，因为庙越多人呢，就是穷人越多了。因为求庙，有钱人不能去庙的，有钱人去庙拜什么呢？哎呀，拜更多钱。啊，穷人呢，就是生活的问题，病了没钱医，就是我们现在的社会为什么变成这样？我今年60岁了，我看多了，我在大巴长大的，我看到老人家很多中风的，走路这样过马路的，很可怜。这么多老人卖低修，为什么呢？我在外国，我在中国住了7年。我在马来西亚几年，我很少没有看过人家做卖这个低修来维生的。我最近在越南几个月，胡志明市，我看到老人什么做小生意，摆地摊也这样过日子，有了尊严 dignity。这里的老人是什么呢？我最近还看到一些是听说的朋友，老人看到你吃剩的在 hawker center 剩下的东西，他拿了就喝了就吃了，这个真的是使人，特别是我是一个感性的作家，我看了掉眼泪。我们的社会沦落到这样，50年，你光要说我们是一个富有的第一世界，我们这个叫第一世界吗？部长是第一世界，不能否认的，因为他们拿几百万一年，还有我们这个 Mr. 丢基宪，我们的这个讲什么呢？哎呦，3年没有起薪水了，他拿几百万，他说哎呀 ，he lamented 3 years no increase in salaries， And what happened to you? What happened to us? The average person here, Singaporeans, more than half are not earning more than 2,000. Just think about it. Minus the CPF, how much can you afford to pay for your house, pay for your other necessities, your children's education, your medical treatment? And they say $1,000 you can afford. So the point of CPF, and they don't allow you to withdraw at 55. 55岁不能拿公积金，所以我说我问天，为什么呢？我们去问部长、问 MP、PAP 的 MP 没有用了。很多人 meet the people session， 你问的时候没有答案， 因为他们是part-time MP， 他们拿薪水，他们就是你要见他很难的，因为他说哦，我跟你写信，谁不会写信啊？啊，写信有屁用？写信之后呢，有答案解决吗？没有，就拖延。很多这个 resident 我们 work 报，他们都是这样反映。哎，我们他说等3个月，左3个月右3个月哈，好像那首歌左3年右3年，等了伟大喊啊。所以我们这次呢，你说我们应该怎么办？反对党呢是要给大家一个反对党刚才我们这些候选人都讲了，都提出那些种种的社会问题，在各界各层，所以我们候选人将会是一个负担的一个队伍，我们这是代表老百姓的，我们是普通人，我们不是什么aristocrat 啊，不是那个 natural aristocrat， 我们不是什么贵族，我们的背景都是很普通的，我们只是说能为人家服务，也就是为社会。因为我为什么讲到这一点？我为什么加入 SDA 第二次呢？因为 Mr. Desmond 铃木前是2次了，我在外国他就找我，他说哎，你来加入我们这个帮忙。我想哎呀，我说我想这届不参加了，但是后来他在见我，他在跟我解释他们的党的这最近的活动跟这几年来的活动，哎，我感动了。为什么呢？他们呢在这那么久的时间呢，不断的在这一些区里面呢做了社会的工作。你相片看到他们的派米啦，什么给那些需要帮助的老人跟家庭，这是很难得。因为这一点呢，我加入 SDA， 因为我们要的反对党呢是要有新的，要有真正为社会服务的，不是用 lip service 的。lip service 的太多了，很容易他们走来走去拿几百万，然后有出问题的时候他就解一些借口 excuse， 不需要。所以大家要注意，咱这届呢 SDA 来呢是第3擺大選，我再參加 SDA， 原因就是鈴木前做的所做的這個區呢，雖然大家講話口才較輸，但你唔是喺傳電視主持人唔是喺選明星，愛選熱心，選國會議員愛選熱心，有人咩愛心，這上重要。那唔使看外表，唔使說偶像，對不？啊，所以主要的呢，這個黨的好處是什麼呢？伊人真侪攏做過社會工作，啊，你看上就知，咱有去這個老人院、這地方的送禮啊，什麼啊，這個服務呢是上重要。啊，咱來是入選呢，確實是 full-time MP， 唔是講久久來講兩句，啊 meet the people session， 啊，這真貴做，普通的學生也使做了。所以記得就是講，咱人服務方面有愛心、有決心。所以寫的歌就安怎呢？我是朗誦啊，我看手從來我講話無夾紙，安怎呢？我物件攏是唔是背書吼，我是記了，安怎我朗誦經驗過的、經歷過的，全部在我腦海裡。啊，一些不滿的東西講嚟講，一肚子火就倒會啊，免記嘅，很自然講出來。因為這個社會的不公平，我眼睛看到，我們裡面每個都有雪亮的眼睛，什麼不對的話，我們感覺到。這次我們就跟選民握手，講很多人很自然的來到我們面前，拍拍照，訴苦。為什麼呢？因為他們受苦了，他們知道選了 BAP 什麼部長級什麼將軍什麼，他們拿幾百萬的人會聽你賺1000塊的人的訴苦嗎？有跟他有關係嗎？無嘛，無關係嘛。啊，人會當會軍將軍哈，啊你會拜將軍咯，啊選攏做將軍變做是，剛才講你緬甸，剛才講馬可斯也菲律賓那個政府，你愛我？唔係，咱嘅小話你講真正危險，但是到新加坡變做是一個軍隊嘅 martial law， 下擺咧有伊講，你人無講無法律了。將軍講安尼款對 ，those who have served NS will know. The command coming from military people is under martial law. The command is law. No need to justify the reason why they want to charge you. Well, it's worse than ISA. 所以記住， 你要选以后你的孩子啊，下一代啊，去 service 啊，加了，啊，他大家讲班里是怎么样？没有 trial 的，当兵是这样，所以我们要有个好的社会，不要 martial law 的，不要给将军管的。将军是什么？你说问一个将军有什么社会经验？他在 camp 里面，他每天都喊来喊去，他喊什么你就要照做了啊！叫你 drop， 今晚不能睡觉了 ，stop the rate 你就丢了，对不？啊，对不？做边了对不？啊！现在选将军做什么？啊，你做将军啊，带你 GRC 放几个将军啊？啊？放将军从什么？那唔使去拍箭呢？啊！我爱拍箭那个选将军，唔係选嘅有心嘅人，社會嘅工作者，啊，有愛心嘅人，為人民、為老人、為囡仔，那囡仔真當嘅，即當今都講是你代志，我有工不要緊啦，我即陣翁某有工啦，我厝興好了啦，套香不要緊啦，但比你有囡仔，你有囡仔咧，囡仔越大，大讀大學，哎呦，別人嘅 NUS 來咯。你嘅囡仔讀到落咧，也會累回去 Australia 去美國留學了後，轉來講，哎呦無工咧，安怎辦？啊，你只 CBA 個袂使 withdraw， 你袂使 withdraw 安怎辦呢？你會進退兩難咧，對不？所以咱記得咧，加價和反對黨一個機會，對不？5年啊，要求無好，你夠人釋掉。你何必50年？按照无变和反对党5年，有变无？好势全新加坡反对党回去，加价啊！热了咧有声的人会论，你看这摆比 minister 会更贵啊，佫会牵手会烂啊！负责马路牵手个烂啊！做戏啊，哎呀，戏啊，你做 media 看来开较大了无啊？我袂搞伊演員真多咧吼，但你嚟講咧，啊你大家記得，為咗咱下一代，為咗咱這一代，因為這一代是老嘅是愛吐香，下一代嘅囡仔大咧讀冊，你莫競爭嘛，你莫外國人嚟甲你搶你嘅工作，6.9是袂使，所以我當昨日話你幾點鐘內面緊寫幾首歌，但係什麼你講你個大龍寫幾首歌，因為人嘅主旨是50個，跟住6.9嘅，啊，我係放6.9嚇。反对啊，这华語歌啦，反对才能活，唔是愛拼個嘢啊，反对才能活啊，所以就講愛反對，你咪反對咧，百流浪來了被擠出去了，擠出去都把他當養老，去做好馬路養老，就我部長就暗示了啦，去把單啦，去做好了，愛我有變我，離得開嗎？能生活嗎？你在外國，我在外國住很多年了，我知道了，不容易。你有家庭的，你有啊，你的親人，你捨得離開嗎？不捨得。所以想一下。哦，老人係累嘅咧，老人又唔是 free 嘅咧，嚇。本來知道你個有淡薄做啲 free 嘅上帝上之面，老人要2000塊嗬。哎呦，建國袂使啦，建國真慘啦！你看當今老人有食什麼？啊！以後你淡薄牛肉牛肉土豆才食咩？蘋果係食會飽咩？一罐水腎水啊！啊是啥物水？會啉偌久？啊！這是咧騙囡仔騙老人，咱50年了看真濟了，無再受騙了，對無？伊毋是話你做政府做了50年，當今嘅老人應該更清醒。50年了，你到今日你覺得有變土壤無？你無變土壤。無變，甲在中國的老人安尼款，行棋啊、跳舞啊，電影交孫啊，啊，佫入廠新加坡的愛做這工，70歲佫你做到67，什麼社會老地政府叫你做工做到67？無聊啦！就是啦，你佫你去 exercise 唔通咯，幾個人愛你看佇咧去 exercise 真慘咯，袂低收佫跳卡無，這毋是咱人愛做的，毋是新加坡人希望做的。會記得，所以記得，這一屆愛互反對黨一個機會，5年就好，你先看手咱5年，好無？5年會做了，為水來講，我咱就家己自動咧甲撥落出去。會水咧就是換政府，因為當今的政府做了無人情，做了無管理，就講借口的，所以記得。 也我就讲大家讲，迄两条歌，我是用新写的，查啲虽然时间嘅较短无变写。哦，反对这6.9嘅690万嘅人口，因为若是来咧，咱嘅囡仔，咱家己本是无地方走了。哦，啊，你死别白死咧，吼，这歌咧，啊？袂使，咱个会使个时间，咱有时间该fight，对无？咱有命会使该fight诶。所以咧，我拢代表，因为我咱是代表，你来支持我，我咱是代表你的声，代表你人是国会，哦，你人支持我人，我人是国会就为着你人的什么社会问题，什么个你有听到 Mr. Singh 甲你讲嘅种种的家庭嘅，你去上 SDA 碟，你会看到成千人的心声啊，惨的啊，安怎惨法，你听到你流目屎，流目屎，所以各位。我讲到这到为止，希望大家我的歌来唱得无好听，因为我不是歌星哈，我不是国台歌星，我是一个作家，写剧本的导演，所以要是唱得不好，请大家原谅；要是你们可以唱得更好，你们也可以录就上了。好，谢谢大家，谢谢大家。
Thank you, sir. Let's give him a big round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen. Excellent. Now, I shared with you a little bit about the CPF song that he has come up with. I also was just told that today, this afternoon, we loaded up a second song by him that is on the 6.9 million population white paper. So when you go home today, go and listen to both of those, and I'll try and get them translated. But once again, a big round of applause to Mr. Atero Lim. Thank you for the garlands that were put up to us just now. I will also share this in the PASIR RIS-Rally, and I repeat again. These garlands that you are giving us, it's a great honor on our part to be able to serve the people of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL and Singaporeans as a whole. Give yourselves a big hand, because these garlands are more for you than just for us. Before I invite the next speaker, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to go through quickly the 19 points that we have in plan for PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL that I mentioned earlier on local issues. Because the next speaker is a super inspirational speaker. When he speaks, even I move. And I tell you something, whether he speaks later in English or Malay, you will hear that power coming from within. So I'll leave that for him to charge you up. But I want to just cover these 19 points, because PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC residents, please remember that first and foremost, the 6 of us are going to be your representatives, taking care of local issues and making sure the town councils and all your needs are met first and foremost, because you have the power in your hands to put us in this position. And then secondly, we will be the voice in Parliament for both you and the rest of Singapore. So I'll just take 2 minutes to go through the list. Now, if I elaborate on each one of these points, it's going to take another hour or so. I invite you all to go out. When you reach home, go onto our SDA tube, and all of these have been listed, plus more detailed plans. But in simple things, number one, we're going to appeal to the government to bring forward the MRT construction plans for PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Number two, a lot of you have told us we need a regional hospital here. Number three, we need more schools and childcare centers. Number four, a water taxi to link up the Punggol settlement, Pasir Ris and Changi ferry terminal will be planned for. Number five, we are also planning for a link road between Pasir Ris and Punggol via the Lorong Harus. Number six, some of you have been asking for a LRT link between Pasir Ris and Punggol. Remember, I told you there are 42 proposals that came in, and we looked through the best 19 to see what we can put forward. Some of you have said we want to have fishing farms to operate floating seafood restaurants. Some of you want us to have town councils to provide for better services to the residents. And those of you who just joined us, I promise you and I reassure you, the town council in Pasir Ris-PUNGGOL will be an example for the next 5 years if you give us your mandate to run it, because he has 14 years of experience running it, and our shadow town council is already being trained for the big 1 year and more. Give yourselves a big hand for that. Next thing, there are many residents who say, I am ready to serve you and work within the town council and in this area should you be elected? Give me a job. Yes, we will give direct employment for all administration, conservancy, landscape and essential services. Residents will be given priority. First priority, residents of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL to be employed by the town council if you are qualified for these positions. We will also start an employment and service matching program to make sure that no Singaporean PMT ever goes hungry. Give yourself a big hand too. Now we are facing an aging population. I'll tell you something. Every Singaporean has the ability to help your neighbors. So our proposal number 12 says we will start a special befriender program as a neighborhood watch, which will help to watch out not only for your brothers and sisters in PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL, but also at other environmental issues, safety issues and defects within the estates. We will be always ready to serve you, but if you see something that can be improved, if you see something that is wrong in your areas, you are the first ones who are faced with those problems. Immediately give us a call, reach out to us, and we will run over as fast as we can to serve you. Say yes. Yes. Next, we also want to appoint every block at least one block representative, because communication has to be two ways. There was an old generation where someone needed to stand up and tell them what to do and they followed. But today's society in Singapore, the education level has gone up. Each and every one of you is empowered to think for yourself. Each and every one of you is smart enough to even be here. Each and every one of you can lead. And that's why we need one of you in every block to become that block representative, to be the voice within the block. And as you come together, we will also improve PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Say yes. Yes. But it is all not work, but it's also enjoyment. So every 2 weeks or so, we want happiness. Remember we spoke about it earlier? So every bi-monthly, we will try and plan special parties which will bring the community together, which will bring us together, maybe even increase our national identity, maybe even give us a chance to talk to fellow neighbors and get together, feel the love, feel the passion for PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Every half a year, we also are going to have a constituency township meetings so that we are open, transparent and totally accountable to all of you. Give yourself another big round for that. Every year, and we're not going to wait for 5 years to say what happened with whatever not. But every year, we will have a town council meeting to open up our accounts, to show you the progress reports, to show you what we have done. And thank you for your big hand, sir. But this is needed today because the electorate is already ready to ask for accountability. And if we are going to ask the government to be accountable, then we are ready to be accountable to the people of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Say yes. 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 Now the next one. When we put up these 19 points on the net about a month ago and on our websites, the outgoing MPs, they picked up on the next one and a few others and started already firing us. They said, how can they say number 16 is going to happen? How can they even say number 19 will happen and so forth? But I'll tell you something, our last few proposals are very important and please listen to this. PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL is one of the largest GRCs. We have nearly 188,000 voters here. Every person, every family may have special problems that are unique to you. I shared with you the story of some of your neighbors who are frustrated because for so many years they have been going to the MPs who are outgoing MPs. They have pleaded, they have begged, letters were written, but nothing was done. And I quote to you, one of your neighbors gave us this recording because the MP came knocking on the door. He had a notice outside saying, you don't knock if you don't return my CPF at 55. Say wow. Wow. But they still knocked. Maybe the English fonts was too small, but the font I saw was big, but they still locked. And when they opened the door, we have audio recordings. That man staying in PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL was angry because he says, 4 times I went to you, 4 times appealed, you wrote letters, but if you still can't do anything about my problem, then what are you there for? You might as well move back. This is your voice, people. So give us a chance Because what I'm going to say next is going to be very hard work on all 6 of us. But before we came forward, we all decided and we said we're going to dedicate our time, our effort and our whole energy to the people of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Say yes. 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 And if need be, we will be here every day to have daily meet the people sessions with you to make sure we listen to your problems, because there are 6 of us. Never mind if some of us take that little time off, the rest of us is a strong team who's going to listen to you with our daily meet the people session. So your voices, your problems will be overcome and your stress will be gone. Say thank you. Thank you. And the last 2 is this. After the next speaker, I'll be giving you a letter of testimonial to back up what I'm going to say now, because it is all to do with his 14 years of experience in running a town council. And right now it has been made a big issue, so I have to bring it up again and again to take away that fear, if even little bit you have left. Because we promise you, as our number 18 proposal for PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL, that after the transfer of adequate surplus to the sinking fund, whatever balance we have will be given back to you, the people of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL, as a rebate for your S&C charges. And that's the confidence we have in taking care of your money. Say yes. Yes. And last but not least, all this is a lot of things to be done. You know, when we put up these proposals a few weeks ago, Facebook is an open thing. They picked it up from my page, our pages, and they started rebutting this, especially the last one. But the last one we think is the most important. In today's generation, the people want a change. Say yes, we want a change. Yes. Number 2, the people, the electorates are smart enough, savvy enough to know that their members of parliament cannot be part-timers who got 20 other responsibilities and jobs, but need to be here all the time to listen to you. Say yes. 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 And that's why the last proposal, which may be difficult, but we will do it for you, is that we promise to be full-time MPs. Because politics is not a game. Politics is a serious matter. And if you think people can do 100 other things and still take care of their voters, then they are wrong. We promise to be full-time parliamentarian and also be ready for you all the time to take care of you. And we need to be there for you. Say yes. Yes. Thank you. Oh, thank you for saying thank you. Give them a big round of applause. Give them a big round of applause. Thank you. And I end up with this before inviting the next speaker, that we can't do this alone. Ladies and gentlemen, the SDA was here in the year 2006. We were here back in 2011. And now we are back again in 2015. We have always been walking the grounds. We always have been here for you, and we know your pains. So the last request I have before I hand over to the next speaker is that in your hands lies the real power. If this September 11 you exercise that power and you give us your mandate, you put us in, we will do the best, if not beyond best, for all of you. Give yourselves a big round for that. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you, sir. And now please, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. And also tell your neighbors and friends to do the same. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. That's nice. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the next gentleman who is going to come up speaks really from the heart, very passionately and full of power. Whether he says it in Malay or in English or in any language, I tell you, we all move. And after him will be the next last speaker who is also going to move the crowd. So the grand finale is coming up. Prepare yourselves for this last boost before we close by putting your hands together for the Deputy President of PKMS, Mr. Ismail Yaakob.
Good evening, President of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Very sorry today I have to speak Malay a few minutes. Salam sejahtera penduduk kawasan undi GRC PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Apa khabar semua? Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, pilihan raya sudah bermula dan kita lihat ramai calon-calon pembangkang mengutarakan isu-isu Melayu. Sedangkan Pertubuhan Kebangsaan Melayu Singapura PKMS telah mengutarakan dan memperjuangkan lebih awal, seawal tahun 1965. Ini bermakna sudah 50 tahun isu-isu masyarakat Melayu masih lagi dibangkitkan. Kenapa? Kerana pemerintah mengambil ringan, ambil lewa untuk menguruskan hal-hal kepentingan masyarakat Melayu. Kita tidak boleh nafikan pemerintah ada melantik Menteri Melayu, tetapi mereka harus menjalankan tugas mereka dengan berkesan. Kerana masyarakat Melayu dari sudut pelajaran, pekerjaan, perumahan, ekonomi, agama jauh tertinggal. Ini adalah perkara penting untuk masyarakat Melayu. Mereka berkata Melayu sudah maju, Melayu sudah progres, sudah maju. Di mana laporan kemajuan untuk dibuktikan kepada orang Melayu, masyarakat Melayu? Where is the progress report to say that the Malay sudah maju? Tak ada. Kita minta 2 tahun sekali keluarkan progress report to show, tunjukkan kepada masyarakat Melayu, ini sekian-sekian mereka dah maju. Ini amat penting. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, adakah Melayu sudah maju dan sejajar dengan kaum lain? Jawapannya tidak, belum. Kalau betul kita sudah maju, kita lihat sendiri bagaimana keadaan orang-orang Melayu perlu pertolongan dari sudut education, pelajaran, minta pendaki. Begitu juga pekerjaan. Banyak orang Melayu komplain, mengadu bahawa nak dapat kerja susah, itu ini. Ini semua adalah tugas pemerintah, melantik Menteri Melayu, mengarahkan supaya kerja-kerja itu dapat dilakukan oleh orang-orang, bukan cakap Melayu sajalah, untuk masyarakat Singaporean semua. Jangan fikirkan untuk yang lain. Ini kita tinggal Singapura, kita tak ada negeri lain. Orang lain datang, dia boleh balik. Orang Singapura macam mana? Kita ini tempat tanah air kita, Singapura ni, we need to survive. Tak kira Melayu, Cina, India atau Serani, kasih mereka peluang. Singaporean masih kasih peluang. Tuan-tuan dan puan-puan, baru-baru ni saya baca IP, saya tengok ada satu menteri cakap kalau tidak undi pada dia, tak ada food center, there's no bus interchange, tak ada sekolah nanti. Macam mana nak jadi pemimpin kalau kita mendesak supaya rakyat PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL ini, penduduk PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL ini memilih dia, mengundi dia? Bayangkanlah sebelum dia menang atau dia pimpin, dia dah mendesak macam ini. Bagaimana kalau dia dah memimpin? Siapa lagi kita nak harus meminta tolong kalau dapat pemimpin yang macam ini? Belum menang, belum berkuasa, belum perintah, dah tekan rakyat. Cuba kita fikirkan, itu satu selaitan kepada masyarakat, satu selaitan kepada Singapura, lagi-lagi pengundi kawasan PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Tak kisahlah kita nak bikin swimming pool ke, tak nak bikin food center ke, tapi itu tanggungjawab. Your punya responsibility, you bertanggungjawab, you kena lakukan apa yang terbaik untuk penduduk kawasan PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL. Kalau tak nak, jangan jadi menteri. Kita cari lagi siapa yang boleh jadi menteri yang bagus-bagus, kita undi kasih. Tak kira pembangkang atau PAP. Baru Cik Abu Muhammad sambung. Kalau dia tak boleh buat, SDA boleh buat. Cuba kita fikirkan, ada masalah lagi tentang CPF. Apa yang pentingnya hari ini kita nak umur kita 55 tahun, serahkan balik kepada rakyat, kepada orang Singapura. Itu penting. Kerana CPF ini perlu untuk digunakan semasa usia kita 55. Adakah kita kurang matang dalam usia kita 55? Saya rasa tidak. Kita membesar part by part sampai umur kita 45. Tetapi kalau umur kita dah 65 tahun, 67 tahun, baru nak kasih sikit demi sikit, Mana ada rasa? Kita nak berehat ke, nak berjalan ke? Ya, tak boleh. Kerana ada sukatan yang macam itu. To be fair with Singaporean, 55 return back. Kalau tak percaya, yang orang yang ambil 55 ni panggil anak dia buka satu account bank. See your father oriented 55 years old. Okay, buka bank account witness by the son, the daughter. Okay, spend habis, itu hal dia. Anak dia bertanggungjawab. Okeylah tuan-tuan, saya tak ada masa. Saya ucapkan terima kasih. Cuma pesanan saya unilah dengan baik pada hari 11 hari bulan ni. Kita perlu sokongan daripada anda, kerana kita perlu ada satu perubahan suara yang boleh menegur atau yang menentang polisi-polisi yang tidak baik, tidak sihat kepada kita. Terima kasih.
Thank you, sir. Let's give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, once again for a inspiring speech. Thank you. Now, as we go towards the close, the last speaker for today is going to speak to you, and he's going to tell you things that are going to also move your heart. I read to you quickly a letter of testimonial that was given by Mr. Chiam Si Tong, the ex-MP for Potong Pasir. He says, I have known Desmond Lim for many years. He's a loyal party active member. He's a reliable person, and he has been working without tiredness for the last many years for the party. He is a hands-on man. He gets things done promptly for the party, and he single-handedly is organizing so many campaigns for the party. Mr. Chiam said he will make an excellent member of parliament, and he will be an asset to the PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL Town Council. Let's give that a big round of applause. Yes, definitely. He's a good nature. He is a very helpful person, and he gives his services willingly. His nature is willing to serve others and put them in front of himself, and this will put him as a wonderful member of parliament. Mr. Chiam Si Tong ends off by saying, I recommend Desmond to you wholeheartedly. I recommend you vote Desmond to be your next member of parliament with his team. Warmest regards, Mr. Chiam Si Tong. Please give a big hand to Desmond.
Well done.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, residents of PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC 白沙榜儿集选区的选民，晚上好！谢谢你们今天抽出宝贵的时间来听我们的群众大会。新加坡有一个很了不起的现象，什么了不起的现象？行动党真的是了不起，选前说声对不起，选后柴米油盐一起去，地铁瘫痪又多起，地铁总裁薪水又起，原油上涨价起，原价下跌，油税起。不中选的话，小班中心不要起，罢工抗议又一起，酒醉骚乱第一起，最低存款一直起，拿回钱没起，但是看我们拿不起。9月11日，我们全部一起站起来，票投给新加坡民主联盟，不然价格通通都起。李显龙先生领军人民行动党竞选时亮出了政纲标语，你我同心，为国为民，寻求人民的委托，再造岛国，辉煌50年。人民不是不听话，其实我们已经很听话的顺民了。本着共同价值观，委托了行动党半个世纪，我们的生命大半辈子，可是 来到了今时今日，越走越不对头。前面的大家都认可 PAP 的政绩，可是自从部长操心上位后，我们的日子越来越难过。那么多的细节的求助被套，就是例证：生活费高涨，公共服务每况愈下，连部长的数字也越叫人起疑。其实老百姓的要求很简单，我们没有精英的超高薪的期望，我们只求3餐温饱，老来有所属，孩子有出路，安享晚年。可是现实却逆向而行，搞到了人心惶惶，饮食不安，一有病痛动不动就要住院动手术，去掉了大半生的储蓄。民间早已口传可以死不可以病，搞到3个公积金不同的民行医药保险配套，到头来还是要现金应付医药费。最近又来了横招终身养老配套，这一来我们没领那个将来的，还没有领那将来的，还不知道应付得了吗？那几百块的生活费，不久每个月又要多付300元，生活费也一直在往上缓涨。半年前5个富士苹果巴沙买2元还买得到，现在没有4元不用买，而且还是 offer price。你说猪肉贵，巴萨卖猪肉的也会说，你去找政府，为什么要让猪肉从澳洲、印尼坐飞机过来？我问，不是说马来半岛有瘟疫，我们不进口吗？安哥说，沙漠时候的事，几十年的事，马来西亚的华人都吃了，我们去马来西亚，难道我们不吃那边的肉骨茶吗？听过有死人吗？有吗？
没有。
舍近其远，猪八戒当肉身，如今穷人都吃不起肉骨了。其实我们不需要政府什么求助配套，我们只要精英的政府用心维持一个平民化的生活平台就可以了。年轻时我们交了一身所得税，老来还要付7-8%GSD 去微税养政府，通过了消费税来平衡贫富差距，我们可以理解，但是起码柴米油盐和温室的交通工具总可以免消费税，来减轻民生的压力吧。一位单打独斗的电力承包商，每天忙忙碌碌的奔波在马路上，从早劳碌工作到晚上10点钟。有一天我帮他拿工具护送上车，看到他满车都是电器材料，好不心酸。我就这样问他，这也同时是你的货仓吗？跟着你满街跑吗？他平淡的回应，是啊，再过几个月就要到期了， COE 要7-8万，不懂从哪里拿这笔钱来换车。我问他，那你怎么办？生意还做不做？ 他说做了40年，现在 COE 这么高，真的挨不下去，孩子还要读书。说着眼泪流着。老陈做工开价500，他说这是他的最低价钱，我最后给他800。老实说，他退回了300给我，我退回给他，不是我有钱，而是我觉得他更需要，值得给。反观的高高上的精英，操心高姿态，口口声声说救济人民，叫人民不要担心，政府一定会照顾你们，有没有照顾到？没有。反吧。其实民众一直在包容他们的高薪，问题是他们有发挥创意吗？有勤力的地开发国家的经济吗？你们表现就像对人民和国家许下的承诺，以民为本，造兴国家经济，他们还是一味地挖苦我们人民老百姓，一直挖我们的人民的老本，控制我们的公积金，去创造漂亮的 GDP 数字。看一看我们的操心部长的表现，也许可以推正精英们的素质。这不得不叫我们平等，我们的平民开始这不叫做我们等平民开始质疑，他们真的是先生一国吗？爱民如子吗？我们有2位败选的集选区部长，过后没有留守在他们的选区，继续为民效力服务。这一届大选，贵为执政的精英们，国家青年操心培育，怎么不见踪影呢？再看看2位从国家发展部和陆路交通局退下的部长，贵为部长人才，不清不楚的退位，欠人民一个交代。确实退居后座议员，在国会里发挥议员的基本义务，事务发言吗？根据最近网上的一项统计，上一届的议会只针对政策开口议会一次，另一位一次也没有开口。部长级人才领的虽然是议员的薪酬，也应该发挥精英才干，为国民义士吧？怎么能做人半等呢？再看看最近选战一开始就不稳不及待的来人身攻击的精英，就像我们的共产党阿联一盘豪奸，就引起了刚退了下来的上一届的副总理口骂正他要抢占凤山，结果呢阿联没有进驻，那位张先生落得黑头黑脸。我要跟大家讲的就是说 ，this election is not about upgrading your facilities or have new facilities. This election is about our right to claim back our CPF, our right for our future, our right for our children. If they're going to achieve 6.9 million, we Singaporeans going to be minority in our own country. Just imagine, we mere serve national service, and the law says any new migrants who stay in Singapore more than 10 years, they can actually contest. They're going to form a political party, and the law never says that a new migrant cannot become the president of Prime Minister or Minister. And who are we going to defend when we become minority? So go back, think hard. This election is about our rights. Please vote for SDA! Please vote for SDA! Please vote for SDA!
Well done, well done.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Desmond Lim. Thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you in 2 days' time at our last rally at PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL Car Park C, where we'll be giving you even more messages that we can't tell you right now. But on the last day, you will hear what's going to make your life better. Come one, come all, and vote for SDA! Yeah. Thank you, good night, and sweet dreams. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, this is Amanda coming to you live and from Buangkok, and we've just concluded the rally for SDA, who is contesting for the PASIR RIS-PUNGGOL GRC. So all members turned up in full force today and delivered their respective speeches. So that was what you just saw with Mr. Desmond Lim, who's heading the team, who concluded the speech. I think they did touch on several points that were actually they actually struck a chord with most of the people who turned up today to listen to the rally. I think they mostly touched on employment, jobs, education, transport, and basically improving the lives of people around Punggol. So I'm not sure if whatever they said actually made a consensus with you. I think it's been a pretty interesting night, because initially I think the crowd here today was pretty when we first arrived, but they soon actually caught up, and the crowd, I think, increased. At its peak was about 2,000 people, if I'm not wrong, when I estimated. The entire field was covered, and also people were crowding the MRT stations to listen to what the rally was about. I think SD actually got off to a rough start with their campaigns this year, with them having their party posters actually mysteriously disappearing from PASIR RIS, and also Mr. Lim actually has been criticized a couple of times for his poor diction due to a advertorial campaign online, but he has been very cheerful about the incident, and he has urged the public not to focus on that, but to actually give them more credit to the works that they have been putting in so far. Okay, let's just move out and see if there are any voices. I think they did manage to rally quite a bit of support this evening. The crowd was quite enthusiastic at a point, and very responsive actually, because they actually communicated to the crowd in a mixture of languages, including Hokkien as well as Malay. Mandarin and English, and so the crowd, which I think mostly were comprising of the elderly, were actually very responsive and cheering and responding. So it was a very interactive session. Yeah, I think to highlight in particular when Mr. Lim came up, I think the crowd was really looking forward to that. Yeah, and also Mr. Singh, who came up, I think he was very powerful and impactful in his speech tonight. Every time he came up before he introduced the next speaker, he would bring up a lot of points. And I think one thing very interesting was that I haven't really seen in other rallies were them actually bringing out letters that were written by the residents staying in this area regarding complaints and problems that are surfacing in Punggol area. So him addressing them tonight, I think managed to actually really connect with the audiences who were here to listen to the rally tonight. So I think that was a very strong point that he actually made. No doubt they definitely still face very strong competition from the PAP team, who is also contesting for the same GRC led by Mr. Teo Chee Hian. I think they will be having their rally tomorrow over at PASIR Ris, so I'm not sure if they would have watched tonight and actually have any points taken down so that they can actually make a rebuttal tomorrow. Let's see.
Let's do some trash.
Okay, sure. Hi, so I'm sure you listened to the entire rally, so any afterthoughts of after all the propositions made up by the speakers this evening?
Well, actually they voiced out most of our concerns. What would make them stand out would be what could be done next. Yeah, so I'm new. I'm going to live maybe, if God willing, 30 more years in Singapore.
Okay.
So this change that we're talking about is not telling people that the ruling party has not done their part. I mean, they have done their part, but I think we need some outside or maybe some inside
opposition
views.
voices in the parliament.
Yeah, that's right.
So you feel that they brought up very relevant points for people in this area?
Definitely. I'm struggling to get by every day. So
okay. Any point in particular that really struck a chord with you most, like whether it's employment or whether it's transport?
Employment, yeah. I have come across employers who said either I'm overqualified, is there such a word? Okay, I'm overqualified or I'm just too expensive. So what does that make me, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so any changes that you hope to see after this time's GE?
I'd like to see more transparency in our policies.
Okay.
Like where, okay, I know the money in SPF has been invested, but where?
Okay.
And how much gain do you get from there?
Okay.
And why do we get just that bit?
Okay.
Instead of, you know, you said you invested. So if you know that investment isn't worth that much, so why still keep investing in that? And why do we just get a small percentage of it?
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that's most of our concern. I think money is the main concern in Singaporeans' mind because of the high cost of living that we have here.
Okay, one final question. Do you think the passing of Mr. Lee Kuan Yew will affect the votes this year? Will sway it anyway? Or you think it's... No?
Okay, it may be a factor, a big factor, but I don't think it's going to be a deciding factor. He has done his part. Let him rest in peace.
Okay.
All right, let him rest in peace. Don't.
Okay.
I hope what he has done for Singapore is good because we are flourishing as a country. We are flourishing, but as people living in the country, I don't think we flourish as well.
Okay. So you agree on the happiness point? Do you think because they brought up very strongly, according to the pledge?
The happiness part is what each and every individual in Singapore is looking at, but apparently the monetary matters is always bringing us down. So yeah, they got very good points.
Okay. That's great. Thank you so much for your time. All right, so we do have Okay, so we do have residents who feel that their queries have been answered at today's rally. I think that I personally agree that they did bring up a lot of very personal points, and this might really have struck a chord with the residents staying here. I think in the middle of the rally, it was very interesting to note that they actually came up with a CPF song, and I think CPF has been a very hot topic this rally. Everybody's seeking more transparency as to where the money is being funded into or where their dividends are going into. It's something that is the top of everybody's mind. So I'm sure every rally is actually addressing the same problem. Let's just see if we can get one more person to